Good morning, everyone. All right. I'm happy to see you all. I'm glad you decided to join us here this morning. We are in the middle of August. Can you imagine? And it is a nice, cool day, and I am enjoying it. The other day we had some rain, and it was so nice. I think people in Pacific Northwest, we complain about the rain, but when it's not here, we're like, oh my gosh, thanks for coming back. So it's so nice to have it. So for those of you joining us, my name is Lori Irwin Johnson. I am the spiritual leader for today, and I use the pronouns she and her. And so if you've not been here before and this is your first time, well, welcome. We're so glad you decided to join us, whether you're here with us right now, online on Sunday, or you join us any other time of the week or any other time of any time, because we have lots of videos. So you can see this when it's divine timing for you. And for those of you that have been here before, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for being here each and every Sunday and being able to be here to share what it is that you have with us and we can share with you, and we have make this connection. So it's absolutely wonderful to have you. I forgot to ask Victoria earlier, do you have announcements for us? Do you want to do the announcements?
Sure. Sorry. I want to announce that sandwich making will be happening in September on the second Saturday of the month, which is the 13th of September. We'll be meeting at the Surge Building at the corner of South 54th and South Tacoma Way, right on the corner. We meet there a little before 11. We're there for about an hour. We make 100 sack lunches of two different varieties and put goodies inside there. We can use all the help we can get from our volunteers. We have a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. We've gotten awfully good at making sandwiches, and everybody seems to have their own technique, so that makes it even more fun. We are going to be having a gathering at the Parkland Library next week from 11:30 to 1:30, if I got it right, and Lori's going to correct me if I didn't get it all.
Saturday. It would be Saturday the 23rd.
Saturday the 23rd of August,
Yes.
like next week. And I think that's all we got for right now. At least that's all I have. Passing it over to you.
Thank you. No, that's
Have a good
absolutely
week.
perfect. Thanks, Victoria. It's nice to have you back. We missed you last week.
Thank you. Well, Pooter decided she's going to work today.
The
So,
Pooter? Okay,
Pooter,
great.
that's what I call her, Pooter.
Okay. I don't name my laptops or computers, but maybe I should. Sounds like a really good idea. All right. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
My talk title today is Living the Questions. And this morning, we're going to explore what it means to live the questions and why I'm talking about that. To be able to sit in our own faith with uncertainty, to keep an open mind and be open in our hearts, even when everything else around us feels like that's chaotic and that we're divided and that we don't trust each other. So, we're going to be talking about how we can go within and trust that divine wisdom within to always guide us forward, no matter where we are, what we're doing. And we're going to be talking a little bit about politics just as much from the pulpit. So, what does that mean for us? And so, we're going to be talking about that. Let's go over let's do the prayer for protection together. I'm going to put those on the screen for you so you can see them. For those of you who don't know the words, most of us know the words, but for those of you visiting that haven't been here before, I'm going to share those on the screen for you. And let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. And wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So let's just take this moment to sit and to close our outer eyes and to go within and take a breath. Let's get intentional about what we want and need and what we want to experience today. In this time of intention and prayer, we are looking towards the future. Where are we going? What is happening in this world, and how is that going to influence where we go as an organization, as a community, and as individuals in the world? So this time of prayer, we are opening our hearts to possibility, and we're going to sit and live with the questions and see what unfolds. It's through this time that we sit with gratitude, knowing that we are expecting and going to experience all the things that we need right now and in the future. And I'm so grateful for that and thankful for all that is coming. And so it is. Amen. All right. I have some music to share with you today. So let me share my screen and I will pull that up for you. This artist's name is Ellis, and she was part of a thing that they did at Unity Worldwide Ministries, and she recorded this for people to share. So I wanted to share that with you today. So, beautiful song.
I didn't hear what you said. I was clouded by emotion. My own storyline was rolling. We hold on to silence, watching the rain outside blowing sideways through the screen. I feel it touching my face. Breathe in, breathe out. This is where we live. Can I love even this right now? This argument. We turn off the lights so we can see the lightning better, and we're in awe of this sudden weather. Two kids by the window, watching the outside drama unfold. Our defenses are gone. Where did they go? Breathe in, breathe out. This is where we live. Can I love even this storm? All the stormy weather. Every life has pain. Pain is not a sign that everything is going wrong. Breathe in, breathe out. This is where we live. Can I love even this disappointment that I don't know how to love even this yet? How do I love even this?
What a beautiful song. And it moves us right into where we are going with our talk. So I'd like to first, though, start us off with our affirmation. And our affirmation is for today. I release the need to have all the answers. I live the questions, and I trust the unfolding. I release the need to have all the answers. I live the questions and trust the unfolding. So for those of you who know me, you know that where I was at a different church before I came here to Unity of Tacoma. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about that and what it was that I did before. But I would also like to share with you a reading this morning from a progressive Christian minister. And it's called Stripped by God. And it's from a series of DVDs and books that we studied years and years ago. It's called Living the Questions. So I'd like to read that for you right now. What would happen if I pursued God? If I filled my pockets with openness, grabbed a thermos half full of fortitude, and crawled into the cave of the Almighty, nose first, eyes peeled, heart hesitantly following, until I was face to face with the raw, pulsing beat of mystery? What if I entered and it looked different than anyone ever described? What if the cave was too large to be fully known, far too extensive to be comprehended by one person or group, too vast for one dogma or doctrine? Would I shatter at such thought, perish from paradox or puzzle, shrink and shrivel before the power? Would God be diminished if I lived a question rather than a statement? Would I lose my faith? As I discover the magnitude of grace, oh, for the willingness to explore, to leave my tiny vocabulary at the entrance, and to stand before you naked, stripped of pretenses and rigidity, disrobed of self-righteousness in tidy packages, stripped of all that holds me at a distance from you and your world. Strip me, O God, then clothe me in curiosity and courage. So it's been almost 10 years since I was ordained as a minister in my previous church. It was March of 2026, so I'm coming up on that 10-year anniversary. And before I came to Unity of Tacoma, I was a minister at Congregational Christian Church. So many of you may not even know what a Congregational Christian Church was or is, but it is a more progressive Christian faith. And previous to that, I had attended Unity of Tacoma for a little while, so I was familiar with Unity's teachings before I even went in to the Congregational Christian Church. What drew me to their church, in the first place, was that they promoted themselves as progressive Christian. So when we were there every Sunday, and for those of you who were with me at that time and or ever was there at that church previously when I was there, we used to have a statement that really resonated with me and my faith and what it is I believed. And this statement, it said, as open-minded witnesses to God's Spirit, this church stands as a testimony to religious pluralism, social freedom, political justice, cultural diversity, gender identity, and orientation. This community celebrates inclusiveness by offering a spiritual home to all, including those who are marginalized, who have been hurt by previous religious experiences, have been abused spiritually, or questioned the nature of God on their own terms. So before I joined them, I was already a minister for the Progressive Christian Alliance, which is a grassroots organization for progressive Christians. So their statement then really drew me, and I became a member. I also became their administrative assistant, and then an ordained minister. And then after that, a chancellor for their school. So as you can see, I was deeply involved in the progressive Christian movement for 10 years or more. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what it means to be a progressive Christian in relation to what it is to be a unity person, so let me give you a brief explanation. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'd like to do a little bit of comparison. So both progressive Christians and unity people both welcome those who celebrate diversity, those who are affirming LGBTQ+, and creating spaces for compassion and justice for all. Neither movement, whether you are in the progressive Christianity or in unity, have rigid dogma. We don't necessarily have a specific doctrine, or there is no single way of interpreting scripture. Everyone has their own interpretation from their own point of view. Both of the progressive Christians and unity invite us to explore this deeper meaning in the stories that we read. We draw wisdom on how to live today based on what we learned from these stories. And Jesus is honored as a powerful leader in both unity and progressive Christian theology. So we are very similar in that way. We also have prayer, meditation, and service to others, for service to each other, service in community, and service outside of our organizations. And so we were, in essence, putting our faith into action. So there are many different differences, such as progressive Christians stay connected to that Christian stream, where unity is a little bit different, where you are okay to be on the journey where you are. And we were also the same in progressive Christianity. If you walked into our church as a person who is Muslim, or a person who was Jewish, or an agnostic or atheist, in fact, we had quite a few agnostic people in our church, that was okay. You could come in, you could sit down, you could listen, we could have a conversation, and we can live into the questions. And so that is very similar with unity, and progressive Christianity were very similar in that way. Progressive Christianity stayed more biblical, where unity kind of goes off on their own way. And so it's not like unity is Christian based, but we have evolved and changed, where progressive Christianity is still staying within the Christian group. So a few months before I was ordained, I was facilitating a class called Living the Questions. And it was a DVD and book study that we used together. And it had a lot of different popular Christian authors and progressive Christian authors and scholars that I was very fortunate. I was a fangirl at the time, during that time. And so I was fortunate to meet several people that were in that DVD series and contributed to that book, like Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan, Amy Jill Levine, and Brian McLaren, who you're going to hear from here in just a little bit. And although those names are really new, probably to many of you, they were like rock stars to me. So I would go see them and hear them talk and get to meet them and have them sign my book and all that stuff. So I was really into that at the time. So the Living the Questions study series was all about allowing us to ask hard questions about the truth that was in Christianity, about what's happening in the Bible, about all of that, the stories that could be relevant today. And the hard questions about what was happening in our society at the time. And even though it's been, 10 years since then, I think we're living in a time where we're still asking, what the heck is going on? And we're living those questions. At the beginning of the DVD series and in the course, it gives this statement kind of as a precursor of what to expect. It said, what many have longed for is a safe environment where they have permission to ask the questions they've always wanted to ask about, having been afraid to voice the fear of being thought of as a heretic. Living the Questions provides a context where people can be liberated from stagnant cliches and peruse their questions and seek to inform their understanding as part of a lifelong spiritual journey. So in essence, this study, this DVD study, this book study, allowed us to question how our progressive faith was moving forward in a time where we were experiencing divisiveness and uncertainty. And there was fear that progressive theology was dying out, whether it be Christian theology or another type of progressive thought. We thought and we were afraid that it was dying out, and I was anticipating that as being the case. So it was something I was passionate about, to be able to make sure that progressive theology was something that we were still bringing to the world and still holding a space for. So fast forward to just the other day. It was a blast from the past for me. I was on my Facebook feed, and I received a post from a progressive Christian organization that was sending out a call to action. It was a call to action for all individuals who considered themselves Christian left instead of the Christian right. And they were demanding that we start preaching liberal political agendas from our church podiums, and they wanted it as a counter to what was happening across the country in more fundamental churches. They were asking us, in essence, to fight fire with fire, or in the Bible, it would be eye for an eye. And so we were looking to meet them and beat them. And that's what they were asking. Now, what they were referring to in this, bringing it to the pulpit and talking about it, was the decision that was made by the IRS just this summer, just a couple weeks ago. And the IRS issued a new interpretation of the Johnson Amendment from the 1954 law that barred churches from endorsing candidates or engaging in political campaigns. In the statement from the IRS, it said, religious communications made in good faith during worship services do not constitute political intervention. So therefore, churches can now address politics and even endorse a specific candidate from the pulpit without risk of losing their tax-exempt status. So what my progressive brothers and sisters were asking me in this post, and the call to arms is what they were giving us, wasn't just a bureaucratic change. It was a spiritual opportunity for them that they wanted to explore. They were saying that we had to stand up and use the opportunity to change politics towards a more progressive and liberal point of view. In short, we were to use the pulpit as a sounding board for our own political agendas. I want to say that again. We were supposed to use the pulpit for our own political agendas. Does that sound familiar to you? For many churches, this may sound and feel like a victory, that they get the opportunity to endorse who they would like, to be able to talk about politics from their pulpit, and to be able to interweave religion and politics in their churches now, where before they had that limitation. But for others of us, we pause and we think about, maybe there's a dangerous mix of religion and politics. But for us at Unity of Tacoma, there is a deeper question. What is ours to do with this new ruling? What is ours to do as we move forward? And just because we can say something, does that mean that we really should? And just because we have the freedom to speak politically, does that mean we should abandon our responsibility to speak spiritually? And with all opportunity comes responsibility. We have to ask ourselves, we have to keep this in the forefront of our questions. If we can speak openly about politics, how are we going to do that? Will it deepen the division, or does it model open-hearted discussion? Will it reinforce our fear, or will it invite our hearts to be rooted in love and spiritual principles? I'm afraid if we go down the path of fomenting more division, it could be a slippery slope for us, and that we are opening up the opportunity for division instead of connection. which is what unity is all about. While I was a minister for this church, I was able to work with religious scholar John Dominic Crossan for a weekend for a webinar, and it was not for a webinar. It was a seminar in person. We didn't do webinars then. It was a seminar. He was there to promote that and to talk about a book that he was doing, and we brought him in, and it was really exciting. And it was, like I said, I was a fangirl at the time, so I really loved working with him for that weekend. And he said in this Living the Question series, he said, every religion today must take responsibility for its own fundamentalism, because religious fundamentalism is probably the most dangerous thing in the world at the moment. I'm going to say that again. Every religion today must take responsibility for its own fundamentalism, because religious fundamentalism is probably the most dangerous thing in the world at the moment. So what is religious fundamentalism? We hear about that in the media a lot, and we hear about that, people talking about that. But there is a definition for religious fundamentalism, and it comes from cultural anthropology. And it's so religious fundamentalism is a strict and literal interpretation of sacred texts and beliefs within a particular religion, often accompanied by a desire to return to what adherents perceive as the original principles of their faith. This movement can arise as a reaction to perceived threats from modernity, secularism, and other belief systems, leading to a strong commitment to traditional values and practices. And so, like Dom Crossan said in his quote, all religions have their own fundamentalism. They have their own texts, they have their own beliefs, and they are promoting those in their churches. So it was evident in the posts from the progressive Christians that I received on Facebook that they were willing to fight for their own ideology and their political views by using the pulpit as a platform. And so if they are using the pulpit as a platform for their own ideologies and political views, then what makes them different than our fundamental brothers and sisters? They're doing the exact same thing. So we all want to promote our own spiritual paths, and that is not a bad thing. We want to tell people what we know and the experience we're having, and we want to share that, and we want to share that experience with others. But we have to be careful, because when we're promoting, we're not proselytizing, and we're not taking away the freedom of others to make their own decisions. At its core, our calling in unity is not to tell people what to think, but it is for us to help remember how to think in a spiritual way. If I stand here and tell you which candidate to vote for, I've made the circle smaller. I've drawn a line between us and them. And if I stand here instead and invite you to approach politics and social issues and even your family relationships with an open heart and an open mind, then our circle then gets bigger instead of smaller. The question is not for us to say which side should we take. The question then should really be, how do we show up as spiritual beings in the midst of this division? How do we bring love into the conversation? And how do we stay rooted in our own truths when the world wants us to react in fear? And that brings us right to the heart of the theme for today, Living the Questions. You thought I'd never get back to that, but I am here. The poet Rainier Marie Rilke wrote, "Be patient toward all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Like locked rooms and like books that are written in foreign tongue, do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. Live the questions now, perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answers. That's really a complicated but a beautiful way of saying living the questions now. So what does it mean to live the questions? Like I said before, when John Dominic Crossan and his group were saying, it's about really being open-hearted and open-minded and looking at everything from a different point of view. It means resisting the urge for us that we always want to find the quick and easy answer. We as human beings want to find the answer and to solve the problem. It means that we need to hold space for that mystery, the unknown. It means trusting in our own divine wisdom that unfolds in its own time, in its own way, in ways that we cannot anticipate. When we live the questions, we don't avoid life. We lean into it, and we're open to what is. We're curious instead of judgmental, and we open instead of closing down. And here's the paradox about living the questions. When we stop demanding that we find the answers instantly, we actually discover that we hold on to a deeper truth. Because answers are temporary. They shift with new information. So when we ask a question, we receive new information, and then we're on to the next question. Questions then keep us alive, keep us growing, keep us evolving. In Unity, we say that we are expressions of the divine. Living the questions then means trusting that the Christ within us is guiding us and everyone else, even when clarity hasn't come yet. Christ within us is guiding us and everyone else, not just us, but everyone around us, even those people with a different opinion and ideas, political views and social points of view and come from a different background and culture. They are also, based on our belief system, guided by Christ within. Even when clarity is not in our own consciousness, we know that it is there within each and every person. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, it all sounds nice, but it's hard because I disagree, or I get angry, or it's just wrong. And you may be right. But then again, who's to say that you're right? You're right because you have biases. They're right because they have biases. Living the question is not easy. Our nervous systems as human beings, like I said before, are wired to crave certainty. We, in the face of all the complex problems and issues, whether they're political or social or personal, our brains want to grab onto the quickest answer and to find a solution, even if that answer and solution is incomplete, because it wants to finish its purpose. And that is what the brain does. But here's the thing. Growth happens when there is tension. So it's just as our muscles get stronger as we meet resistance. Our souls and our spirits deepen as we hold the tension between opposing ideas. I like to think about the way that Jesus often responded to people. Someone would ask him a direct question, and he would always answer them with another question. What do you say that I am? Is one that he would say. Or what do you want me to do for you? He invited people to look into those deeper reflections by going in to their inner knowing, to go inside and to find that. To live the question is to be willing to hold space, to be in that uncertainty, to breathe into the attention, and to trust that Spirit is working through us, even through the uncertainty. It's like the inhale and the exhale. We can't live with just one. Both are necessary. Living the questions is the sacred inhale, opening space and making room. So when you take an inhale, you're opening and expanding. And the answers, when they come, is like the exhale. And you're contracting and you're letting go. And without both of those, there is no life. You have to have breath in and out. So how does this make this relevant for us? We have to keep an open mind and an open heart in dialogue. Especially as we're moving through this social change and political climate. It means that we need to begin to practice conversations differently. When you're in dialogue with someone whose views are very different from your own, instead of rushing to argue, try to ask a question. Can you help me to understand what's most important to you about this issue? Explain to me what your thoughts are behind this. When we listen beneath the words, even if we disagree with what's coming out of their mouths, we often find that we have shared values. We may disagree on politics or any kind of social policy, but underneath, most of us just want the same things. We're looking for safety. We're looking for dignity. We're looking for opportunity. And we're looking for peace for ourselves and for our families and our communities. No matter what line or what side you're on, most people are looking for those. When you live the questions, it invites us to shift to how do I convince this person, to how do I connect with this person? It goes back to the basics when you're trying to understand and to the active listening and being part of a conversation instead of trying to prepare what you're going to say next. You live in the moment and you're there and aware. It goes back to those basic principles about conversation and listening. You want to first seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And that goes without saying. We want to listen, truly be present, hear what they're saying, read what's behind the words, and then you can start to really begin to understand. This before you start giving your own opinion. Understand where they're coming from. Assume that they have positive intent. Not all people are looking from a negative point of view where they want to hurt you or the people that you love. Most people are trying to do the best that they can with what they have. And so when we come from that point of view, we have to assume that the divinity is within all people and that they're coming from a positive intent. Look for the shared values beneath their differing opinions. Even though their opinions, their ideas, their thoughts are different than yours, their values may be very similar to yours. They might want health and safety and peace for their family and friends just like you do. So look behind why they're doing it. And remember that saying that we always take with us in unity, the Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Remember when you're approaching someone like this, someone that you may disagree with, the Christ in me always beholds and accepts the Christ within you. And when we hold an open mind and an open heart that way, political conversations no longer have to be places where we're at war. They can become classrooms and opportunities for spirit to shine through, for us to find common ground, to be at a place where we can find peace again amongst each other. So rather than asking which side is right, let's try and ask, how can I bring love and wisdom into this conversation, into this moment? And what is mine to do right here and right now? And how can I engage without losing my spiritual center, without allowing anger and all those emotions to take over? How can I stay centered and grounded? These higher questions, they pull us out of this fight or flight response that we receive whenever we're talking about politics. And we're brought to this spiritual grounding in this moment. We are at Unity called to live the truths that we know. So I want to say that again, because when we're living from spirit, we are living from the truth that we know. Sometimes that may look like taking action. Sometimes it may be just listening. And sometimes it's just noticing and holding space for grace to be within the conversation. Living the questions doesn't mean that we live passively and go about the injustices of this world and allowing that to happen. That is not what I mean. But it allows us to discern what action that we need to take, that where we are coming from spirit, where we are looking at the Christ within, and we are showing that and be an example in the world, rooted in spirit. And when we are in somebody else's company who has a different opinion, that we are coming from that space and we are honoring the Christ within them as well, despite what our minds are saying to ourselves. I want to share a short story. A woman had a neighbor with a yard sign that supported a candidate she was really opposed of. And every time she walked past that sign, she felt that she was angry and she had this really hot spot in her heart. And one day, though, she said that she was going to decide she was going to walk up there and she wasn't going to avoid this guy anymore. And she stopped and she asked, "Can I ask you what you appreciate about this candidate?" Now, she hesitantly said this, and she braced herself for an argument, but instead, he shared a deeply personal story about how this politician's policies really affected his family in a positive way. So even though she still didn't agree with him in his choice, she left that conversation with something different than when she started. She had compassion for this gentleman with a different opinion, and it made a relationship possible again because they shared similar values and they looked behind the words. And that's what living the questions really looks like. It doesn't erase our differences. It transforms how we hold them. So as we move into this week, I'd like to ask you to practice living the questions, to have the hard conversations, but not expect any outcome. Just let that conversation and that question lay. Allow it to be there. Allow it to be exactly where it is without you influencing. Don't offer your perspective right away. Just see what happens. Listen for those values beneath the words. And maybe you'll be surprised by what you discover. See, the goal isn't about to find agreement. It's about creating a connection, to opening up that verbal communication, to say, you know what? We disagree, but we share these values. And this is where spirit grows from. In my opinion, this is where we come from. So let's go back to our affirmation earlier when I was saying, we need to live the questions. All right, let's say it again. I release the need to have all the answers. I live the questions and trust the unfolding. So as I have evolved in my spiritual journey from a progressive Christian to a Unity follower, I don't believe that those ideas are different. At one point in my life, I was a more conservative Christian, and I changed over time. As my knowledge and interests change, I have changed. And so each and every time that I see somebody with a different point of view, a different religion, a different ideology, a different political stance, I think of, I might have been there at one point. I might have had the same point, same idea, and I shared the same values that person shared. I want safety and happiness and comfort for my family, just like that person does. So as I've evolved, I know the evolution of their spirit will happen in a way that works for them, not because I want it to, but because Spirit will guide them in a way that shows them the right way. It may not be the unity way. It may not be the progressive Christian way, but it is a way that works for them and their family and supports their well-being. And when we share those values with those individuals, we build a bridge, and we're no longer us versus them. We are connected when we are community, and we see everyone as valuable. And so it is. I want to thank you for all of that and listening to what I had to say today. I'm going to share a meditation that's going to take us into what it is to be in a space of living the questions. So let me share my screen. Put on headphones if you have them, or turn up your speakers so you can hear this well. Let's get into a comfortable position. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or soften your gaze. Allow your shoulders to drop. Let your breath be easy and natural. There's nothing to figure out and no place to be. Just be here with the breath and the next breath and the next. With each inhale, imagine receiving calm. With every exhale, imagine releasing any tension or tightness in your body. Feel your feet and legs resting gently on the floor or on the surface you're sitting on. And feel that steady support beneath you. Notice that you're fully held by the seat you're on, by the earth, and by divine presence itself. Now bring your awareness to the center of your chest, your heart space. Imagine it glowing with warm light. We remember the Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Allow that light to grow warmer, softer, more expansive. In this heart space, there is room for mystery, room for questions that don't yet have answers, room for differing perspectives, room for both knowing and not knowing. There's no need to force clarity right now. Instead, simply notice. What is it like to rest in a heart that can hold it all? Now imagine that you're sitting in a beautiful meadow. The sun is warm. and you can hear the birds and the bees, and you smell the flowers all around you. Imagine there's a gentle breeze that's bringing you a small bundle of questions. Questions about life, about relationships, about the world that we share. Some questions may be personal. Some may be about our society or politics. And many may feel unanswerable. But rather than rushing to solve them, simply allow them to rest in your heart space and trust that divine wisdom will guide you in time. Allow these questions to settle in your heart space while we take 2 minutes in quiet. If your mind wanders, return it to your breath and return to the feeling of that spacious heart, that compassionate home for all of these questions. As we come back from this time of rest, you begin to notice your body in the space that you're in. You feel the steadiness of the seat beneath you. And you begin to notice your breath again. Allowing those questions to fade away for now. And allow your mind and heart to feel refreshed. Not because all the questions are answered, but because you've made peace with holding them. And as we sit here, coming back to conscious awareness, silently or aloud, repeat after me. I release the need to have all the answers. I open my mind to divine wisdom. I open my heart to love without limits. I live the questions and trust the unfolding. And as we allow this affirmation to settle in our hearts, taking another breath in and letting it out, gently opening your eyes. Again, one more breath in and out. Feeling that calm presence within you. And carry the spaciousness into the rest of your day and into the week. And so it is. And as we come back from this meditation, I'd like to take you into a little bit of a talk. It's only like 2 minutes long, of one of my favorite progressive Christian scholars. And the reason I brought him up because he had made a statement after the election in November that I think you're going to find maybe, hopefully, a little inspiring. So let me pull it up. And like I said, it's only 2 minutes long or so. His name is Brian McLaren.
Something is trying to be born. Hi, friends. I'm Brian McLaren. I'm a former pastor. I'm an author. I've written over 20 books on the spiritual life and contemporary crises. Something is trying to be born, and something is dying. Here's what's dying. A world of white supremacy is dying. A world of dominating, angry, greedy men without empathy is dying. A world without concern for planet Earth itself, that world is dying. A world of violence and power, of religious supremacy, a world that measures value by wealth, not health. That kind of world is dying. A world that works by domination and exclusion, not by collaboration and connection. That kind of world is dying. A world of me first, not we first. That kind of world is dying. And like a dying, cornered animal, that dying world bears its teeth and its claws, and it will destroy as much as it can before it's done. If you only look at what is dying, you'll feel despair. But something else is trying to be born. Don't forget about it. It's not as loud and angry as what is dying, but it's far more important. What is being born is beautiful, and you know because you feel it, it's being born in you. The pain of these moments, they might feel like death pains, but they're really labor pains. The darkness, as my friend Valerie Kaur says, is simultaneously the darkness of the tomb for what is dying, and it's the darkness of the womb for what is trying to be born. Be strong and of good courage, my friends. We are in this together. Something is dying, but something is trying to be born.
So even though we may be looking at sitting with the questions, and we may have different opinions about theology and politics, we find hope in the words of people who are holding that banner of inner divine, that space of growth from within. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to leave and just let it there and let it lie with Brian McLaren's words. But what I would like to do first, before we go, one last thing, is I'd like to say a closing prayer. And this closing prayer was written by Cynthia Langston Kirk. Traveling God, when I want a roadmap, tour guide, and reservations made in advance or accommodations on my spiritual journey, whisper your invitation to me anew. Invite me to follow, to leave my preconceptions and certainties and follow. Remind me that Christ is my compass. Remind me that while the journey may be difficult at times, it will also be filled with joy and overflowing. Keep me mindful that the invitation of this journey is just to love. I pray with deep gratitude that you go with me. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. This is our opportunity to share and to talk about maybe a controversial